I have a shameless plug. I really, really appreciate you guys listening in some ways to my conversations about identity, but did you know that chatting isn't the only thing I do? I love to paint. And now you can have a bit of my art in your house. It also makes great gifts, by the way. So check it out at aubreyjeanart.etsy.com. That's aubreyjeanart.etsy.com. And also hit me up on Instagram at my handle, aubreyjeanart. I'd love to hear from you. Welcome to 32nd Cherokee, a podcast exploring why being 1/32nd of a bloodline is meaningless. And surprisingly not at the same time. I'm your host, Aubrey Jean. With me today is a fellow offspring of my parents, my sister. She's on today because, though she's my same generation, I realized we haven't talked much about our Cherokee ancestry, and I wanted to get her take. Plus, she called me right after my first episode posted, and I said, whatever comments you have, do not say them until we record. So, enjoy 1/32nd Cherokee with my sister Connie. So tell me about this. You listen to the podcast.
Yeah. So I listened to the podcast and I was thinking like, I grew up with all the stories too, right? Kinship with different cultures.
Yeah.
That we have as like family lore. So with Cherokee and then with Viking and then with some of the family lore that we have on like the Polish side of our family, the Polish Russian side, I have always felt like that kinship, and I have never really understood why. It's so much so that when I got my side tattoo, which is a Cherokee proverb, I had been going through and there were different ideas.
I did not know that you had a Cherokee proverb on your side. I knew that you had a tattoo, but I didn't know it was a Cherokee proverb. What proverb is it?
When I was going through and planning on getting my tattoo, right, I had pulled up all these different things that could go along with what I'd been feeling at the time or whatever.
And you were feeling what at the time? You were feeling like kinship to our ancestors?
It was right after Nicholas and I had broken up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like wanting a booster tattoo.
Yeah, like a comfort.
Like boost your morale when you look at it,
Yeah.
Like a saying or whatever that you would have on you forever. And all of these different ones had come up. And then this one came up and it's good thoughts, positive energy, things like that will prevail in your life if you feed the good wolf. And negative energy, anger, sadness, things like that will prevail in your life if you're feeding the bad wolf.
It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you are obsessing over something negative, and it'll become its own self-fulfilling prophecy because you're obsessing it. So you're kind of like feeding the bad wolf.
So that's a Cherokee proverb, I guess. If you Google it, like it's a well-known.
Oh, I will.
Attributed to Cherokee.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google it because I'd never paid attention to that. I have heard of feeding the good wolf before, but I didn't pay attention to it. The origins.
I had all of these options right to do, and the reason, one of the main reasons that I chose that one specifically was because I was like, well, we have Cherokee in our family, so this is a perfect fit on more than one level. Like, even if my situation changes, which obviously it did, like, I can still say because we have Cherokee in our family that I have this on my body, right?
Yeah. And it's a good message anyway.
So, there are other ones that I've looked at and things that I've thought about getting. Things attributed to Vikings and family lore have been told that we have in our family. And I have stopped myself and been like, well, now we don't know if these things are true. And I have no idea if we have it in our DNA. So now I can't do that.
I know. We really need to get a DNA test.
Yeah, seriously, because it makes me...
Dad has a DNA test, right?
Yeah, Dad did his.
Okay, and so we know that makes sense. Like what he comes from with this DNA test, like I think Polish makes sense because that's part of our family lore that we're Polish. Okay. And then it's through our mom's side that it's Cherokee. Now, when you talk about family lore, what do you remember about our family lore being Cherokee?
I've heard different stories about it. And not a lot. So one of the stories that I had heard was it was like a well-known family in like upper in the Cherokee tribe, like the chief's daughter or something like that was who we came from. We kind of stopped talking about it, or nobody just ever asked about it after I was born. And so I just heard like snippets.
Yeah, I mean, you were 12 years.
Younger, so you guys had
12 years younger than I am.
Yeah, you guys had already talked about most of it, so I didn't hear a lot. What I had heard was that it was from like a Cherokee chief or something like along the lines of that our family came from.
Yeah, I don't want to burst anybody's bubble, but I don't think that's true. I mean, it's still in debate, of course, if Sarah Catherine Wood is Cherokee or not. But I've got no indication that she was of any family that was I don't know, ruling a clan or something. I don't know. Obviously, I do. I need to do my research on Cherokee government. And well, it makes sense that you wouldn't have heard anything much about it because when you were born, great grandpa Warren had died, so you'd never met him as far as I can remember.
Yeah, he'd already passed away.
Yeah, and he was kind of in my head the linchpin of this whole thing. Now grandma's kind of kept it going, and that generation. But when her dad died, I guess in my mind that's kind of where it kind of focuses from because it's his line. And then we moved right after you were born, and so we became our own separate entity from the rest of the family, and we were kind of like this floating little group of family going to different states. So it would make sense that in our nuclear family, we, it wasn't a focus that we talked about. It wasn't in our face a lot because mom and dad didn't decorate with Native American paraphernalia.
Right, exactly. And it was only on visits that I would ever catch snippets of it, either asking about a piece of jewelry or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was never really told.
So did you feel connected to other parts of our history?
But at the same time, like super disconnected.
How so?
I have friends that are full Native American. Like both of their parents are Native American. They're Native American. There was just this different, I don't know. I mean, I can't even say culture because they lived in this small little area with us. But there was just this different connection that they had to Native American traditions or holidays. And I mean, they would like go and revisit for Native American holidays that aren't even like national holidays. They'd like go on family trips and go revisit things. And I was always like, I felt a kinship just because I thought that we had some Cherokee in us as well. But I felt this weird disconnect because I was like, man, we literally don't do anything that shows or signifies that we would be even close to Native American. And which, I mean, why would we? 1/32nd is nothing. But there was that weird feeling like, are we not supposed to do this? Are we supposed to do this? Does it really matter if we're going to do this? Because you can appreciate a culture even if you're not a part of the culture, or you can become a part of the culture if you're around it long enough. Like, I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
I don't really know. I don't know. I just have never really known a way to navigate that myself.
Did you ever talk to your friends about it? Those who were Native American?
Slightly. I was on the volleyball team with one of them, and we had kind of talked about it, and she was like, yeah, it would be super cool for people to come and watch, but like they don't let outsiders really participate. And so there was kind of that like stigma too, where am I an outsider? Because I wouldn't really be able to participate. But I could go watch it, appreciate,
Yeah. I mean, I've been to powwows, but I would never think that I had the right to go participate. Yeah, just because it's not,
So there was,
it is part, like, it's, and the funny thing is, okay, so our grandmother is one age, and she has this kinship, and I think that's what's been passed down. I might have passed over mom, I'm not sure, because I don't hear really, mom doesn't really talk about it very much. But because all the grandkids and stuff were around for a really long time, we were around grandma, it was sort of like a given. This is part of our inherited heritage. So grandma has this thing where it's not as if grandma actually, we as grandchildren of someone who's, you know, registered with the reservation, we still, even so, don't really participate or understand any of the culture as we could.
Right. I have felt, especially in the coming to question things in the family lore, I've kind of felt like, am I even allowed to want to do more? Does it even, and then I've also thought, does it really even matter? I mean, obviously it's a huge part of the identity for people that are like very close to that culture, right?
Yeah.
So they are half Native American, they're full Native American. Obviously, like, they've grown up with that culture. It's something they're very close to for any culture, not just Native American. What I feel towards them.
Do you have an answer?
I don't know. I don't know if it matters, to be honest. That may sound really shallow.
No,
but
that's okay.
I don't know if it really matters, because whether we find out for certain, say we are not, say the person that's tracked back through it comes out that they are not Cherokee at all, right? So we find out that we have absolutely zero Cherokee in us.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would change how I feel about the culture as itself. But if we find out that yes, we are for certain, I also don't think that would change how I feel about the culture in itself. Probably just because of how distant we are to it anyway, makes me feel that way. But I don't think it would change anything. I still wouldn't really feel like I had a right to do anything. And on the flip side, if we weren't, I wouldn't feel any sort of negative feelings about them. And I still want to be able to go and appreciate the culture for what it is.
If we weren't, if Sarah Catherine Wood is not in fact Cherokee, does that mess with how you view yourself at all?
For me personally, no. Now, even though
you have a tattoo on your body that's Cherokee.
Yeah, seriously. So I'm in this weird disconnect where I grew up in your generation, but I am a lot younger, and I grew up to where we didn't live around family. We went and visited family.
Right.
And so while that still is kind of like ingrained in our sensibilities, I guess, ingrained in what we are told or what we're thought about, it didn't really impact me in a way like it has seemed to impact you or impact some of the cousins that are older.
Yeah.
I'm just disconnected from it, to be perfectly honest.
And that's okay. I mean, I think our journeys with identity is very personal and intimate at the same time as it draws on all these connections. And so your identity is going to be personal, even though it's being influenced by everybody else around you in our family network. And you're right. I have a weird connection with it, and I have tried to do research about it because I realized that we were generically celebrating this heritage, and I felt that was a disservice. If anything, the disservice that I, speaking for myself, would have done is just saying, yay, I'm Native American, so I'm going to get some turquoise and some silver jewelry. And that's it, when that may not be anything related to whatever tribe we're from. And so I decided to start looking into Cherokee culture, and I have a lot of work to do as well with that. But because of that, I think this thing grew in my soul. I wanted to know more, and I wanted to kind of understand where we came from, and I wanted to see if I could really see if Sarah Catherine Wood is Cherokee or not, and find her on the Dawes roll, and see if Grandma's claim is legitimate. She's a member of, I think, the Western Arkansas Cherokee Nation or something. And to see if that is a legitimate claim. And if it's not, to get that rectified, because, just, me, I like to get paperwork in order. I don't like to have it hanging over my head, and it feels like it's hanging over my head. And then also feeling like, Grandma, maybe she legitimately has a claim to feel connected to this. That's great. And I've inherited a little bit from her because I am connected to Grandma. And so it's kind of like I am mirroring my elders and what they're connected to, and they're my link. And that's okay for me to do that, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's an important part of somebody that I love, and it's something that she loves. So I've always kind of felt like that, but at the same time feeling like this is weird, because if it's true, I am 1/30. Well, at the time I thought it was true. So I would be thinking like I'm 1/32nd Cherokee at best.
Yeah.
So it may not be quite as significant to other people as it is to me. And so I wanted to get a deeper knowledge about the culture, deeper knowledge about what I was connected to. So I have a question about your daughter. So what are you going to pass on to her, specifically about this, other things in our ancestry?
To be perfectly honest, I think it depends on what we find to be factual or not.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if it comes out for this that we are 1/32nd, then I would love for her to be able to learn more about it. Not necessarily to do anything, but just to learn about the culture itself, just to understand family, even family that we've never met, right?
Mm-hmm.
To understand like what was going on in their lives or in the culture around them at the time. But also, I mean, for anything else, I think it just depends on what is true or not. That is what I would be passing down.
Yeah.
If
it is
true.
And
not in any sort of negative way. So I know that, I mean, when you find out about things in your family, whether they're good or bad, you have this kind of shock to your system initially, especially if it's bad, right? But the thing that, I don't know, maybe it drives me crazy, and maybe it's not supposed to, maybe that's what's wrong with me, or that's what people think is going to be wrong. But if I'm not connected to them, like if I didn't know them in person, if I didn't participate in whatever they were doing, they made their own choices, right? And it doesn't define me.
Right.
And so, like, I think about Harper, and I think about her dad, and I think about family lore and her dad's family. And family lore and her dad's family is that there are Nazis, like legitimate Nazis in the family.
That's an interesting conversation to have with your 5-year-old daughter.
Yeah, that were like,
oh no,
that were like under Hitler's regime, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what is it?
I knew he looked like a Nazi.
To be perfectly blunt, what does it matter?
Yeah. Okay.
Like,
what does it matter with
think that way?
Yeah. So you're saying that, like, more for you, you sound influenced by what your personality and your experience currently, how that shapes you and your future.
Yeah. And not necessarily, I would say, not necessarily what is inherited through our heritage, like you were saying, but I just grew up as a white kid, European white kid, and it didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like a white kid with nothing. That's
Yeah.
so you had to like make yourself, and saying that you could be a part of these things, yeah, it makes you feel special at the time, but then you don't integrate it into your life, and so what does it really matter? And that's kind of how, for me, that's kind of how I've had to live. Like, I find something that I enjoy, and whether through heritage or not, if I can relate to it, then why do I have to have any sort of blood connection to it?
Mm-hmm.
I guess that's how I felt. Maybe it's a cop-out, but that's just
if that's
how it was going at the time.
I don't think it's I don't think it's a cop-out. I think you're allowed to recognize and choose the things that shape you.
Yeah.
And maybe you're healthier for it if you recognize it. So you're not being influenced, acted upon by something, and you have no control over it. So I would say if someone is more self-aware, you're healthy.
Learning about ancestry, I'm not saying that learning about ancestry is not important. I'm not saying that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that learning about the ancestry doesn't make me who I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Constance, do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Nope.
Instagram or anything? You're like, I do not want anyone to find me through this podcast. I just told you I didn't want to be connected with any of what we're talking about. I don't want anybody to have that, how they look at my future through what we're talking about.
I don't know if that's true.
That's what you said. That's what you said. I have it recorded. Let the record show that that's what it is. Well, Constance, I love you. Thanks for having a comment about my introspective podcast. I'll have you on again. Don't worry.
Okay.
That'll be exciting. And just so you know, you're also going to be on an episode, right? You know that this was partly an episode. I will edit.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Good. Let the record show. She said yes. Okay, good. All right. I love you. Have a good day. Or have a good night. Run 32nd Cherokee with Aubrey Jean, and with all the favors I can cash in. Produced by me, Aubrey. Executive produced by nobody, because I don't know what that means. The Anchor app by Spotify holds my hand for all the engineering. The music is also found on Anchor. You can rate and review this show on many podcast platforms someday, and you might find your review featured on a future episode. Or I might burn it in effigy. Got comments? Send me a message at anchor.fm/Aubrey-Jean. That's anchor.fm/Aubrey-Jean.